Okay, this next video is on, I want to compare histograms. So I want to get histograms. In order to compare the histograms, I really want the axes to be similar because it's much easier to see patterns when the axes are the same versus when they are not the same. So this video is going to be focusing on comparing histograms and some tricks that I can use Excel using fake data to get Excel to create the histogram I want. And let me give you an example. So here's a histogram I've created before. Now, I've got another set of data and I want to create a histogram to compare against the first one. So in this histogram, I've generated a new histogram, just like I did before. I'm not going to go, that's you want the details, you go to another video, the previous video. This histogram, okay, well, first thing I need to do, I want to get the same axes. So here, it's really hard to compare these. I've got two really wide bars and I put them above and below each other. It doesn't really line up. So it's hard to see patterns to compare them. So I really want to get the bottom horizontal axis of this histogram to match the top histogram. So I'm going to go to the axis settings as I've shown in a previous video. And I'm going to go to axis options, and then my first histogram, I can see the interval here is 1. It goes 22, 23, 23, 24, so it's got an interval of 1. So I'm going to give an interval of 1 to this histogram, which is great. Now I've got my 1 interval, except it still doesn't line up. This one starts at 23. It doesn't start at 20 like the other one. So this is where I'm going to trick Excel to put data down here. I call this is using fake data to affect the histogram. Now be really careful. Only use fake data intentionally to get the histogram to behave how you want. But if you're doing any calculations, like calculating mean, medians, and modes, you want to be really careful that your fake data does not accidentally get into your calculations. I won't go into that in this video. This video is just about how to get the axes to line up. Now this histogram here has a starting point at 20. So I'm going to put in a 20 and I'm just going to make a note that it's fake so I remember for later. I'm going to click on my graph, and when I click on the bars of my graph, it highlights my data. I'm just going to drag that data down to there to include my fake data, and now I have a fake bar, which is great. Now this this histogram starting at 20, this one's starting at 20, but this one still goes to 30, this one doesn't. So I'm just going to put, 100 in this one, make a note it's fake, it doesn't really matter. I just want a value larger than 30. I'm going to extend my histogram to include that fake point. Now I'm going to change my overflow and I'm going to set it to exactly the same as the previous graph. Now in this example, I've only used overflows. You might need to use an underflow and an overflow. It just depends on the data you're using. But by having these fake data points here, Excel is now happy to create a horizontal axis that starts at 20 and goes above 30. The problem is though, I know that this bar here is fake and this bar here is fake. So the bar at the top and the bottom. So what I want to do, and this is the sneaky part. I'm just going to, if I click on that bar, now if I click it once, it selects all the bars. Click it again, it selects just that one bar. I'm going to go over to my format data options on the side, go to the fill, and I'm going to get rid of that fill. So now the bar is invisible. I'm going to do the same with the bar at the top. Now it's invisible. And now I have a good histogram and my fake data is not shown in the histogram. Not only that, you can see that my axes line up really nicely. Probably the only thing here, see how this goes from 0 to 8 and this is decimal? I might just change that. Can I change it? Tick marks? You know what? I'm not going to spend time working out how to change this so that it's in units. I think I can do it under major. No, you can experiment with these. I don't want to. I didn't. I wasn't planning this in the video, so I'm going to skip it. I'm going to skip working out how to do that. The other thing I want to talk about here is if I just zoom out a little bit, you can now see my two graphs side by side. Now I can start comparing them. For example, this graph, I mean, this is not a good statistical distribution at all because it's just a few bars. So this is not an good example on how to do statistics, but I've only got a few bits of data in this example, so I'm just going to do the best with it that I can. If you had 100, 150, 200 data points, you're going to get much better looking graphs that look like a typical histogram. Anyway, here I can now compare them. I can see both of these graphs. This one has a maximum at the 23 to 24 interval. This one has a maximum, sorry, not a maximum, a mode. The tallest bar here is 23 to 24. And here, the tallest bar is actually 23 to 24, but also 24 to 25. So I would say, if I was looking at the intervals, the mode of this bar is probably going 23 to 25. To pick the mode, I probably would look more at well, with this and with this such a short data, it's really hard to say there's a mode. The most important thing is I've got a comparison. All right. What else can I say? Same thing. Now that I'm comparing them side by side, if there was better quality graphs, I could talk about the skew of them. I could compare the medians. I could compare whether the positively skewed, negatively skewed. I could talk about outliers. I can talk about the spread just based on the visual distribution of the graph, and that's probably about all I can do at this point.